All right, good afternoon. I'm not sure how many people may be paying attention to this or how many people care at all, but there are a couple things going on in the news. The president is having his opioid commission today. It's being live streamed. It's being talked about in the media. There's also yesterday an announcement came out around the Comprehensive Addiction Recovery Act, which is to increase funding around addressing the overdose epidemic, the opioid epidemic, increase funding for medication-assisted treatment, increase funding for prevention, increase funding for treatment, all those things. So I want to weigh in on that. Obviously, I'm going to have to say something about this. And so here we go. So the first thing, let's talk about CARA 2.0. And this even relates to the Opioid Commission, the President's Opioid Commission, because I watched the Prevention, Treatment, and Recovery panel, and I'm really telling you that there is a freaking disconnect. And you can tell when you hear people talk. You can tell the way they talk about the process, and they really think that when they're given money to prevention, treatment, and recovery, when they give it to the, when they kind of give it to the existing state systems or the existing infrastructure, they really think that they're actually addressing recovery. You can tell by how these Secretary of Health and Human Services and Ben Carson, the HUD director, and everybody there, they really think that actually it's all the same thing. So we have done an exceptionally poor job explaining that recovery is a whole entire process that needs to be developed by a whole entirely different infrastructure. So they're saying about $210 million set aside for recovery support services. This is what I would like to say to the HHS Secretary and to President Trump's Opioid Commission, and it's what we said in Washington 2 weeks ago. That money has to be designated for recovery support services, and it needs to be put in its own little box, in its own little lockbox that doesn't have to spin through the regular cycle. The regular cycle or the regular infrastructure should receive their funding for treatment and for prevention. It should be all that stuff. And they're going to get a lot more money than recovery. They're going to get all the money for medication-assisted treatment. They should be made whole. They should get their full funding. I'm not asking for a slice of that pie. I'm asking to access that recovery pie completely independent of that process. And they don't get it. They do not get it. It's all the same to them. So here's what's going to happen unless we get really, really crazy aggressive about this. This money is going to be rolled out through grants to states. And the states are going to try to provide as much of the answers to all those slices of the pie as much as they can within their own framework. So there will be a little bit of money that will work its way to independent recovery community organizations. There will be a little bit of money that will work its way to recovery high schools. There will be a little bit of money that will work its way to collegiate recovery programs and recovery housing. But the vast majority of the money will stay within that system. And what it will do is it will employ people within that system. They will hire recovery coaches within that system. They will hire somebody to produce a video or do something to try to reduce stigma. They will have committee meetings on recovery-oriented systems of care and all this other stuff. And some of that may be helpful and some of that may be necessary and use some of that money for that. But listen, man, this is $210 million for recovery support services. There are organizations out there. Let's just take independent recovery community organizations. The way that we will address the stigma and the way that we will address this issue is completely 100% different than what they're going to do through the existing infrastructure. You know, breaking through the stigma can be helped with a public service campaign. It can be helped with a documentary, but it's not going to get done with a documentary. It's not going to get done with a public service campaign. It's going to get done with people in recovery and families in recovery, in the grinder, every day, being willing to come out of the shadows and loudly proclaim, I'm in recovery, and that can best be delivered by recovery organizations. We can deliver that in South Carolina better than anyone. Because we are the recovery community. We got their back. These families that are hanging their head in shame, they can best be propped up by us. Those people, those addicts who've been shamed, those people with substance use disorders who've been shamed and rejected and pushed aside, and the policies have squashed them, they can best be represented by us. So listen, President Trump, the people on the opioid commission, the people that are crafting this legislation, $210 million directly to recovery support services. Spell it out. Make it so that organizations like Favor Greenville, and there's a lot of us, there are a lot of quality organizations, like we can go directly to that funding. We don't have to go through anyone else. I want a direct channel, a vertical, directly to that funding. I don't want to have to go through anything else. I will try to go through it if I have to, and I love those people. We're best friends. It has nothing to do with that. This is nothing personal. This is time for radical change. And goodness, when they're up there talking, it's all the same to them. Here's the deal. The bottom line is treatment cannot do recovery. Just like me as a recovery community organization, I can't do treatment. If I go do treatment, there'll be gnashing and wailing of teeth. That's doing something different. I'm not saying I'm not going to go do treatment. Maybe I will. Hell, it's all on the table at Greenville. It is all on the table, baby. All right. Let's close this thing out today and let's all calm down a little bit. Let's all just calm down, you know? It's all going to be good. We're all on the same side, but we still got to call it like it is. All right. Holla back. Have a wonderful day.